Relaxed. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Hello, lovely ladies. What a powerhouse. Oh my God, look at that. This is amazing. And on top of that, an amazing topic. I'm afraid that we'll have a hard time getting everything pushed in this only 50 minutes. Okay, so I suggest we start with a short introduction of each and every one of you. Please keep it short. The shorter you keep it, the longer we can talk, which we all love. So I'm just going to follow the lines here on the screen. Jamie, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Jamie Petrie. I am the owner of Pink October Co., and we make digital stationery and apparel.
Nice. Great, and welcome.
Thank you.
Lizzie, so great to see you again. It's always lovely to see each other. We always meet in here. We should do this more often.
Happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year to you, Isabel. I'm a publicist and I deal with entertainment and tech.
Amazing. And she's doing a great job with it as well. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce it well. Maria Pais, or please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, is Maria also a tech and entertainment publicist? Focus on...
We lost
her. Just had small technical issues. She'll get back. Let's get first to Mariam, and then we will pick her up again when she's okay. Welcome, Mariam.
Thank you so much. I work at the intersection of art, science, technology, and global co-authorship.
Wow, fascinating. Getting into that later on. Dr. Tammy Francis, welcome. Nice to have you again.
There we go. It's good to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I am Dr. Tammy. I'm an educator. So I've been an educator for over 24 years, a traditional educator. And of course, I educate in the Web3 space. And I'm really into talent development, learning and development, and looking at how that can help you with your transition and growth, upskill, reskill, and retool.
Amazing. Sounds fascinating. You're all doing so fascinating things. I could talk for hours. It's going to be a challenge for me. Okay. Welcome. Hannah, please introduce yourself. Hanan, sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I get it all the time. I'm Hanan Marabi. Hello, everyone. Morning, afternoon, evening to you all. I am a nurse by trade, but also the founder of Earth Angels nonprofit organization, where we help moms and babies in impoverished areas, currently building a fish farm in Ghana, West Africa, to feed many.
Wow.
Nice to meet you all.
That's, wow. Respect. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shannon, welcome.
Hi, I'm Shannon Peel, and I help brands get brand appeal by defining who they are and telling brand stories to the marketplace to connect.
Peel gets appeal.
That's a good one. Interesting. So I think that Mariah is still off, or maybe she's already back. I'm not sure. We will bring her in as soon as she's ready. But I would say let's get this party started. We have several questions. I won't let you reply to each question, every one of you, just, picking it up. So if you really feel like this is a question I would love to say something about, just raise your hand or make some noise. But I would love to do it a bit more spiced up than yesterday, so everybody can say something about whatever she likes. And we have Mariah back. Hi, Mariah.
Hi.
Hi. Great to have you. Please just introduce yourself.
Oh, yeah. So I'm also a tech and entertainment publicist. We focus on the founders of the companies and doing personal branding for them to ultimately amplify their voice within their brand.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, and happy that you figured out the tech so that we can all dive in. I was just saying that there are tons of questions, but if you feel like this is a question for me, just make some noise, make a sign, and then because I won't reply everybody to the same question. Just want to spice it up a little. So let's get this party started, as I said, and let's start with the first question. How has storytelling evolved according to you with the advent of emerging technologies in your particular field?
All right.
It's a big
I'll
one.
go. Oh.
Okay,
No,
Lizzie.
go ahead, Peel. Go ahead, Peel.
Well, I'm probably the oldest one in here, so I started telling brand stories when email was brand new. So I have seen the gamut of evolving technologies and have been a part of it. The main thing that has happened is storytelling has shrunk. So our brand stories are becoming sound bites spread out throughout our digital footprints, and we're losing understanding and comprehension and connection with our audiences in the marketing advertising world. Commercials used to be longer. Now it's like writing a book report and only reading the first chapter and the last chapter and trying to get an A. That's what our brand storytelling is today in today's world, because there's so many options, so many channels, and so much content.
It's a battle for attention.
Yeah, it is a battle for attention in the advertising marketing world. Even if you're going to tell a longer story, it has to have less details. It has to bring the audience in more by tapping into their experiences.
Mm-hmm. Lizzie, what is your take on that?
Well, we have to talk about what nonlinear storytelling is and how that fits into the VR cinema perspective, and even telling a story in a 3D immersive environment. Very much like what we saw in the transition from theater to cinema 100 plus years ago, we had to retrain the audience to perceive a story in a different way. We weren't just filming a proscenium stage and basically filming whatever was on stage as a play. The editors came in, and all of a sudden the audience had to perceive what it meant when there was a close-up on the protagonist or a hand going towards a doorknob and who's on the other side of that door. We're seeing that evolution again in VR as we retrain the audience to perceive a story in an immersive environment. A beep bop.
Totally. Totally. It's also a totally different perspective. From 180, you go to 360.
Facts.
Hanan, please.
Yes, I was going to add to what Shannon said, because it's gotten so hard. It's gotten so hard just with trying to make a presence online. I think I thought it would be easy. I have some short films about all the projects that I'm doing with the nonprofit that I run, some films that cost me a lot of money to make. And I thought, I'll share them and it'll be pretty easy to get a visceral reaction from the audience and pull them in. And surely everybody will watch it and it'll go viral. And no, actually that wasn't the case. And that's happened several times to me. So yes, the culture has changed, and the storytelling needs to be, so different and so, I guess, creative and quick because what we thought or what you think may work or may grab the attention of the audience is not always the case. That's for sure.
Definitely. Could you share an example where a narrative significantly impacted a brand or technology success? Any ideas on that one? Please, Jamie. Yeah.
I had an example that's actually very recent. The Intimates line, Ari, just posted a photo with the caption of "Sexy energy is not a body type," and then showcased a bunch of women with the same body type. And that post has gone viral. Yes, it went viral for all of the wrong reasons. And the post itself only has 1,100 negative comments, but it has spiraled into something so much bigger. People are posting comments under other pictures on their Instagram account, blowing up their DMs. And I think that is an example of where a narrative has significantly derailed a brand. I think that the message was nice, like there was good intent behind the message, but then the follow through was just not in the graphics. And then in essentials, like in their size chart for their stores. It's one thing to say something, that sounds nice and uplifting, and then it's another to follow through on that. And I think our storytelling needs to be genuine, and it needs to be honest. We could all say all the nice things, all the right things, but unless there's a follow through, your audience is going to see straight through you, especially in the season of cancel culture.
Yeah. You say, in fact, walk the talk, be authentic. Yeah, totally with you. Mariah.
Yeah, I was actually I was just gonna say that one too, because that was very recent. But I also have one where it was a bootstrap water technology company that I was working with, and they had very little funding, tale as old as time. They wanted to go with the narrative of, like, we're a family-owned business. We are honest, blase, blase, blase. Well, what was nice was that we were able to connect that narrative in our communications with the public. And we got a lot of family-run plumbers that were really on board with that, because most plumbing businesses are family-owned and run, or at some point were. And so we really capitalized on that. And so installations of this tech started getting more popular. A large insurance company saw it, promoted them, and they ended up getting bought out by one of the largest plumbing companies in the US. So it's like, it can be simple, your narrative. It needs to be like you said, it needs to be really authentic. And sometimes you need to be super, super innovative in the way that you say it, but sometimes you can just bear the basics, and it really will shine through if it's true and authentic.
It's true. Anybody anything to add to that?
It's not answering the question, so it's not an example, but I
Don't worry.
I think that there's a lot now with image and words. Before, when you told your story, it was mainly in words. I was back in the email era, right? And you wrote your book and your memoir, and you did that, and it was mainly words. And so words, you could do a lot with it, and it was difficult to decipher tone and some of mood and some of those things with the words. But now with images, kind of like Jamie was saying, you got to be careful, because it can contradict what you're saying or clarify what you're saying, and that can derail things or make it more impactful positively. And so I think that is the shift that we're seeing, is now there's images attached to all that we tell, and all the things that we say about ourselves.
I would like to take that even a bit further, because it's not just about images. With immersive technology, you're really immersed, you're living it.
That's right.
So it's in fact beyond images even.
Correct.
Which makes that you feel it instantly if something is not authentic. You could even put like images, like
Period.
fake images, whatever. But now you're living it.
Right.
And I think that's a major shift that will like do a real like, okay, let's get rid of all the fake ones and just keep the real ones.
It's
in
even
the end.
beyond language. There's a breaking of the language barrier that's happening, and ultimately, when we do arrive at Web3 and whatever the next iteration of the web will be, it will be basically symbolic language, which is fantastic because we will bring the world together for real, because language barriers will not be a thing anymore.
Well, the other thing is that we're going to have the ones that can really figure out how to create a choose your own adventure story that is authentic and isn't just, change to page 2, turn to page 4. I mean, when I choose your own adventure stories when I was a kid was you turn the page. But now it's, do you go through door 1 or do you go through door 2? And you walk through that door and it changes the story. Now, Netflix has tried to do this. It is very labor intensive, very expensive, but we're going towards that. I mean, I that's in my publishing world, that's what I try to do is these choose your own adventure stories, because that's where we're going.
I think sorry, not to interrupt you, Isabel. I was going to just piggyback off Shannon. I feel like we've seen that in video games recently with the new release of Hogwarts Legacy. It's really an open world. You can do whatever you want. And there are even consequences for picking on fellow students. And there is curses that you can throw at people, such as Avada Kedavra, which is a killing curse. But if you kill a main character, you have to start your game all the way over. Like, it's just, that's where it ends. And I think bringing that aspect, like that whole open world, into something that like is more than just like on a screen with a controller where you can actually like feel like you're a part of it. I think that is going to be just
interactivity, no doubt.
Yes. Yeah.
So you become part of the narrative itself. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mariam, please, you want to say something?
Sure. I think it's maybe just a recap of humans connect through stories, and we have been engaged in an oral tradition since time immemorial. What's happening now with technology is the creative economy piercing through the attention economy. And here we have a multi-dimensional, multimodal opportunity. And all of the talk around authenticity, I think for me, requires a deeper dive into what it means to be authentic and understanding ourselves across generations, digital natives. We have a lot of fake bots, fake avatars. As president of the Montreal chapter of the VRAR Association, I see the potential for authenticity itself to be upended. I work with organizations on digital innovation where the technology supersedes the larger narrative. And I think from a marketing perspective, part of my work as founder and CEO of Hollow Art, bringing science, art, and tech together, is exploring the notion of storytelling as a medium to resonate frequencies in marketing. When a story is told, heartbeats and brainwaves synchronize. So the power here for me and the opportunity is to have different voices who don't typically have access to the pen, to chapters in certain books, to tell stories in a way that resonates. And the opportunity, I think, is global co-authorship. That's why we have a child on our board. I think it's really important to listen to children. We have elders, Indigenous voices. And I think part of this requires a look at what it means to tell a global story. With that global story, empathy, compassion, the ability to tolerate narratives that are different than ours. I think that's the opportunity for storytelling. And I think the last piece I'll say is we're moving beyond the tired archetypes of Jungian, the hero's story, the lone hero. I think what we're moving into is reimagining stories as a way to connect.
That's a really nice one. And I think that brings us as well to our next question. I think you were already seeing it up front, because indeed, how do you harness the power of storytelling to connect with your audience on a deeper level? Exactly what you were talking about, Mariam. How do you see that, ladies?
Well, this is at the core of what I do, because when I start with a brand, the first thing I do is define their real core values. And that isn't the nice to haves. That isn't what you want someone to think that you are. This is really looking at your behavior, the choices that you've made, your stories in the past, and what they say about you as an expert, or even as a leader of a company. I mean, the more people you have do this, the more layers there are, but you can really find those common threads in your organization that you can then utilize in your language and in your narrative to attract the right people as employees, to attract the right people as customers, because they're resonating with those key words, those key things that are about you. But then it's about telling the right stories and staying on target, not trying to run after that viral video and do that TikTok dance because everybody's going to watch it. It's really about making sure that you're understanding and then taking it to the next level, which is, I call it experiential storytelling. When you understand your audience so well that you start telling stories in the second person by utilizing the pronoun you, and you are able to understand which details matter in order to put your audience in the experience of the problem that they have, and then guide them through their customer journey, where you're then presenting them with solutions that they get to choose, and results, and showing them what that result is going to be like. Once we're in the VR world, that is so much more visceral, because they can actually pick something and see what the consequences
really shoot themselves.
Yeah. But in my advertising marketing world, it still is quite one-sided. Like if you use this is what's going to happen. It's still a promise that brands give. But understanding who your audience is on the core values and what it is that they experience in their day-to-day, and then telling them that story and putting your information in there as solutions. That's what I do on a daily basis. So you have to understand them on a deep level. You have to do the research. Storytelling does not start with once upon a time. It starts by asking questions.
And I think a little more than that. I know when we think about storytelling, we always think about the side of telling the story. But part of storytelling, I think that Miriam hit on it, was this oral tradition has been forever. And part of the things I think that we're forgetting now with technology is that part of the storytelling is listening. Right, is that side of it. And I think as a founder, I think I pay more attention to what the people and I am targeting, my targeted audience, those people that I'm serving, that what they're saying, right? Not only and what they need, and listening to their stories, but then sometimes I have to listen to my own stories. Like, what is that I am putting out there, and what does that look like, and look at it holistically. And so I think that that's part of the power, is in the listening. No matter if you're in the virtual world or whatever world, is paying attention to all those things, and really think about, and I always think about literacy. It's reading, writing, speaking, and listening, right? So I think it's also those elements that are around you and taking all of those things in.
I'd like to add to that, if I may, in bringing to the fore the medium through which we tell stories. And I think part of that is storytelling is an opportunity for us to build, establish, and grow, cultivate trust. With that trust also comes this discernment and the ability to move forth with wisdom, understanding that language changes. And so for younger generations, we have emoji language that some parents who see their children text don't understand. An eggplant for a 45-year-old will mean a different thing than for a 5-year-old, than for an 80-year-old, than for a 95-year-old. I have friends who are 95. Some of them stay, abreast of cultural icons. And I think where we're going with this is looking at how language manifests itself in our day-to-day. Mirroring that, I loved what you said, Dr. Tammy, about listening and active listening. And the last piece around the medium is when we look at the neurocircuitry and the social psychology of emotional contagion, we think about the digital spectra that younger generations, consumers, marketing profiles have access to. What we notice is that their brains are changing. So when you have YouTube Shorts or TikTok showing two different things, one at a very slow pace, one at a very fast pace, what that does for the ability of the mind, body, and heart to listen, to be able to absorb and to discern which pieces of data and information will be weighted, just like an algorithm, just like AI, just like an LLM. It's that piece that I think we can cultivate through education and also elevate the opportunity for women to have a voice at the table so that those data sets aren't simulated data sets that were pulled from a digital archive, a compendium of human knowledge that has sieved and sorted based on a certain filter and perception. So thank you.
Yes, please, Jamie.
I just wanted to add to everything that everyone's been saying. As I think I'm probably the youngest person on the panel, my brand was born on social media. And from that perspective, we really needed to find our why. Why do we exist? Why should people care? What are we trying to solve, etc.? And so we needed to do our storytelling in 30-second tidbits that were also engaging, that drove home to our target audience, hit the right people, because if it was being seen by people who were not within our target audience, it would flop. So our storytelling is like really evolving into, how can I take this huge story, this big why, and break it down into 30-second segments? And I feel like it does a lot of good, because if you have a long story, that's a lot of content that you get to share and spread out across multiple days, months, etc. But there's also been a huge drive from Instagram to listen to your audience. So they have added polls. You can do questionnaires. It's making like your story very interactive with your audience, and they're able to tell you what they do and do not like. At the same time, people are very vocal in the comments section. They will, if they don't like something, just with Ari, they'll tell you. You'll know. And I think that's a huge blessing, because you're not just putting something out there and hoping it sticks. You get the immediate feedback of like, oh, okay, that was the wrong direction. Let's redirect. Let's correct. And I think storytellers on social media, especially, we're becoming like almost data analysts, because we have to look at our engagement. We have to see, okay, when will I get the most engagement? When will people see this the most? And constantly fighting the ever-changing algorithm. And so it's really a beautiful time where data, science, and storytelling are all like interchanging with each other. And I think it's a wonderful way to tell new stories.
Is our audience still our audience? That's something that, because we're talking now about, we talked about language, about audience, about all different kinds of things, but what we didn't talk about yet is culture. What role does cultural context play in crafting narratives? because I can imagine a story that you tell in one country doesn't necessarily work within another country or other continent, or based on language, based on audience, based on so many things. So what role does it play within your industry?
Well, I'm in North America, so we have a multitude of cultures, and I'm in Canada, so we are a mosaic of cultures. And culture is changing rapidly here. You know, what we believed and was acceptable as a teenager in my life is so not acceptable in today's PC world. And brands are getting caught. Take Pepsi, for example, with their jump in commercial where the Jenner girl led the Black Lives Matter protest, and Pepsi could solve the protest, the conflict. That was so tone deaf to what was actually going on, because they didn't understand the people that were participating in that protest. Now, that has nothing to do with one ethnicity over another, because a lot of different ethnicities came together to voice how important one subgroup was in our culture. And Dove has done it with women. Gillette has done it with men. If you don't do it right, if you don't understand that audience, they're going to eviscerate you. Now, the thing is, Pepsi back in the 70s was at the forefront of the Black Lives Matter type of marketing and advertising, because they showed groups of urban Black young people enjoying Pepsi as a commercial in the 70s, which was different. And then they go and blow it in 2020, whatever. So that is a loss of understanding how people are going to react to a message, because you don't understand the culture. You don't understand what's important to them. You don't understand their value system. And you try to just jump in to a movement or an ideal.
Well, there's a shift happening, and the shift is actually against cancel culture and PC. It looks like things are really moving in the direction where people just do whatever the hell and suffer no consequences. With rises of figures like Trump and other more boisterous political figures popping up all over the world, there seems to be a trashing of cancel culture. And people are blatantly like, fuck this and fuck that, and they don't care, and they're just plowing through. And I wouldn't be surprised, or it looks like the temperature of the room is going in that direction. So it's just interesting to see how all this time we've had this cancel culture and kind of being, very careful about cultural appropriation and such, that now it looks like it's just going to be like blah. And if Trump really comes back into the White House, then brace yourselves, because it's going to be completely unapologetic, and you will see the pendulum swing in the other direction, where people haphazardly will just say what's on their mind and not even just move on and not even think about, any kind of addendum to a statement.
Which people can do, but brands cannot.
So I wanted to piggyback on what Jamie first was saying last about, I think, and this might be the nurse in me, and I'm so not on the IT lane, so maybe I'm out of my lane today. I'm learning from all of you. But I think relatable is what human beings want to feel, right? Is that they relate to the message. I think as a millennial, I think I can speak for that generation, but I think most human beings just want to feel like they relate with that message. And then as far as cultural context, I can't give so much of a techie example, but my example in my field is that with the farm that I'm building, I'm 4 years in, and my first goal was to just feed people, as many as possible, 1,000 people a year if possible. And that was my bandwagon for a while, until I started listening to the people in the village. Mm-hmm. And until I actually had a local do some research for me. And she came back and said, actually, people want the food, sure, but what they really want is there's all these grandmothers that have all these children, and the children are not in school because they can't afford it. So they're helping the grandmas by working. And so it's just a mess in the community because there's all of these needs, levels of needs. And so because I sort of, put my roots into research and actually doing what the community told me versus what I thought they should have, we now have, the grandmas off the streets with their kids going to school instead of working with the supplies they need, and have, an abundance of fish and know how to sustainably fish farm. So now we have layers of all these benefits, generational benefits for the community versus here's some fish. So that's my example. And, just had me thinking when Jamie was talking about her last point.
Yes.
Brilliant. Mariah, what is your take on that?
So yeah, I think I like what Shannon said, as far as brands do need to be aware of these things. I know that when we've done localization and stuff with different games that I've worked on and stuff, what we're advertising, the message that we're putting out there in the Middle East is vastly different than in the US. And you have to be very, very sensitive for different countries. And even I'm living in Thailand right now, and stuff that is culturally here is not other places. And so, like, my friends that have businesses here that are from America are making sure that it is integrated with the culture that they're accustomed to and will make them feel comfortable being, in their own country, right? So yeah, I think that Shannon said that really well.
Totally. As I see that we're already approaching near the end, I know it's going fast. Could talk for days with all of you. What advice would you give to someone looking to leverage storytelling to drive innovation? I would love to hear from each and every one of you.
If you're okay with it, Isabel, I'd like to address the cultural piece, and I'll skip this one.
Sure.
Only because it's a huge part of the impetus and telos of what we're doing. I think there's a couple of things to note here. One is that we have cultures, we have subcultures, we have countercultures. We have emerging markets, we have cross-section demographics, and we're losing what the essence of culture initially meant in terms of art, philosophy, and the ability to understand our emotional spectra. Part of this is based on educational funding and a dumbing down of society, which leads itself to populism and being able to appeal to people's base emotional responses. We see this in the pendulum swing of polarized politics around the world, and then this clash of cultures blending and merging into one through technologies, and two, understanding the underlying infrastructure of our technological landscape is really important. As digital stewards, we need to take a deep dive into how Facebook was initially created to rate women's attractiveness on college campuses. YouTube originally, and you can ask ChatGPT, there will be a rewriting of the narrative, which is also fascinating, along with scribes from millennia past. What we have is a subversive narrative that comes through counterculture in different music. If we look at blues, if we look at grass, if we look at poetry in the Song Dynasty, poets would hide in the palaces and say verse to be subversive in what they were saying. So I just wanted to add this nuance of, this is the GatherVerse SHE Summit. What are we all doing here? And what personality profile do we all fit? What is the narrative we're trying to share within the landscape of tech bro culture? Thank you.
Thank you.
I love that tech bro culture.
And so I think when I think about what advice I would give, and I think Miriam set this up perfectly, so thank you for that segue, is that you tell your story. There's a lot of people who, with the emerging technologies, are very apprehensive about learning, about engaging in the different ways we can communicate using technology. And I think it's always better for you to tell your story because nobody can tell it like you can tell it. And also listen. I think Jamie mentioned it. You know, when you listen to your audience, you know what to tell. I am one that doesn't. I don't like to share a lot of my personal, and so I had to find my way. So the third thing I would say is to find how it works for you. Find the way it works for you. I'm not one to share a lot of my personal on my timeline unless it relates to my business or something that I'm doing in the community, my volunteerism or something. But I found my stories. The stories, because they disappear, they're a short time. People have to be intentional about going to people who really want to know. They'll click on it as opposed to people who's just scrolling up and down. And so I think that's, you just have to find that space where you can tell your story and take charge of it. Tell your story and be authentic and do it with integrity.
Nice one.
When it comes to innovation, it's figure out what problem you're having. When I looked at storytelling, I did a bunch of podcasts and I looked at my story and it was like spread out all over the digital footprint, and people were missing what it was that I did. They were missing the point of why they would want to call me. So I looked at other technologies, and it wasn't just about going with one technology. I figured out how to piece together different technologies to create a multimedia interactive digital book in order to guide people through the story. So, with VR coming in and with these different ways that we tell stories, whether it's video or audio or in print or by doing interactive things like surveys, polls, and quizzes, figure out a way that you can bring all of that together to communicate with your ideal audience in the way that they like to be communicated with, because we all have our own preferences.
There's not one size fits all, indeed. Hanan.
I would say, as Dr. Tammy said, it's your story. So first figure out what that story is that you want to share, and then be true and authentic, of course, because the more authentic, the more relation you'll have with the audience. But then with authenticity becomes vulnerability, right? And I too don't like to share my personal stuff, Dr. Tammy, but I find that when I do is when I get the most response from the audience. So it's this catch-22 where it's a delicate dance. And, for those of us who don't like to give too much of the personal stuff, but that's what people want. So I would say take your time, figure out what that niche is, what the story is, because if you're like me, the story was going this way. Next thing you know, there's 10 stories. So, just take your time, figure out what the niche is, what the story is, and play with it. Don't be so serious. It's okay to fail, to fall and get up again, whatever that message is, the story is. I would say take your time with it and really figure out what it is you want to share.
I just want to piggyback off of that too. To find your why. Your why is really important, and to find your story and your voice. And I'm the type of person that it cannot just all live in my head, because pieces will fall out. I will forget. So if you have to write your story down, write it down and really dig deep, because I guarantee you other people out in your community will resonate with your story. They will have had the same experience or something similar. And that's what connects us as a community. And don't let the nagging voice in your head deter you from following your dreams. Walt Disney had a dream about a dancing mouse on a steamboat once upon a time. And now look at what Walt Disney has created. He's changed the world. J.K. Rowling wrote the first Harry Potter book on napkins at the coffee shop she worked at. And Apple was started in a garage. And now
Everything was started in the garage.
Yeah, almost everyone knows what an iPhone is. We know what all these products are. And if those people had let the nagging voice in their head win, everything would be different. Everything you know about today would be completely different. So you have the power to change the world with your ideas. And that might sound like something silly, something that you put on like a little inspiration card and keep by your desk, but it is true. And we have walking, living proof of that all around us. So follow your dreams.
That's a nice one. Mariah.
Yeah, just to put it like, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs that are maybe afraid to tell their story within their brand, and that's what my whole business is based upon. Like, this is what we do, this is why we do it, and in the simplest terms, your story, like storytelling within your brand, is just your experience, and your experience is unique, and your experience is going to help you navigate the way that you innovate within that, and the way you tell that story is going to affect where you're positioned in the market. And it's not as scary as it sounds, but it is worth it. And when you it can elevate your brand, or it can be your downfall. We've seen really great stories that didn't come to fruition, and they're now, maybe in jail or bankrupt. So you have all this power in your hands, where you can tell stories authentically, and yeah, you can get the message of, depending on what it is, like hope. If you had a rough start, and then you've brought your technology, your business to heights that you never could have imagined, you can inspire this way. And really all it comes down to is telling your experience.
Lovely. Lizzie, up to you to close it down.
Honestly, just make it fun and interesting. If you keep things interesting and have a layer of fun, it will keep people engaged, and then maybe you could dig deeper. But you have to hook people in with something that's going to interest them and keep them entertained. And then you have the luxury to penetrate deeper.
You're such inspiring women. Seriously, this is an awesome powerhouse. I don't know how the others will do it after us, because you already set the bar quite high, ladies. So I would love to thank each and every one of you. We lost Mariam due to technical issues, but also to her and each of you. Thank you so much for so much inspiration, a lovely discussion. And I'm sure we'll meet again very soon. So keep inspiring, and keep it up for all those out there. You're real trailblazers. So
Thanks, Isabel. Nice
thank
meeting you all,
you.
ladies.
Thank you.
Thank
Take care.
you.